Well, first of all, good afternoon. We want to welcome all of you here to the Pasco Sheriff's Office. And in this press conference, we're going to be talking about some exciting news concerning Bridging Freedom. There are some updates. One of the things that we want to show you, and we'll show the video at the end, but if you look at the pictures over here on the side, you can see the progress that has been made, and you can see the sequence of events from the clearing of the land, which is about 100 acres, that was donated to Bridging Freedom, and then you see the further clearing, starting to put in the ponds, the retention ponds, now further clearing to where the homes are going to be, and then this one here is so exciting because that is home number 1 with the plumbing in the ground. And so we're getting ready to bring something out of the ground. And you'll hear more about this as we move along, but that first home was donated by Sykes Industry, Chuck Sykes and Becky being here, and I cannot tell you how exciting that was for them to come along at the very beginning. And then today you're going to hear another announcement about home number 2. And so this thing is coming together, and it can't come together fast enough because of the horrific crime that we're addressing. The horrific crime of human trafficking, the second largest criminal enterprise in the world. The ILO, and I thought this was pressing, and Liana is here from No More Pasco, which is our Human Trafficking Commission. And I was thinking as we had our meeting yesterday about human trafficking, the ILO, which is the International Labor Organization, we've used their numbers for years because it was kind of the lowest number. I always felt like the number was higher than what they advertised, but it was the lowest number that we had out there that was really a credible number. And the victims that they identified was 20.9 million in the world. That number is astounding. And yet just this last week, they came out with their revised numbers, and the ILO, the conservative numbers, is now over 40 million. We've got a lot of work to do. This horrific crime of human trafficking. So whether it be the 8-year-old female girl that was raped since the time she was 4 by her 2 uncles, and then put out on the street when she was 6, can you imagine the horrific scores and scars that that particular girl has? The nightmare that she has lived. And a country that loves freedom like the United States, the land of the free and the home of the brave, the top consumer of human trafficking is our country. We have to stop that.
Yes, we do.
With Florida being one who's reporting at the 3rd highest rate, as Floridians and those of us that work here and love this state, we're making a difference, and we're going to continue to make a difference in this crime. So there are 3 parts. Number 1, we have to go after the trafficker. Enhanced penalties, which we're doing a great job doing. Attorney General that is passionate about this, and one of her top causes. What a great, refreshing thing it is to have her and her initiatives out in the state making a difference. And then the local side with a sheriff like Sheriff Chris Nacco, who has put himself completely behind this and has opened the doors to make sure that on a local level, we're battling this and taking the space away from these traffickers. That becomes the critical piece.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, if we're going to do a long-term strategy, we have to go after the buyer. The only way to impact this strategically and long-term is to take out the demand side. And so we've got to enhance the penalties and go after the buyers. And I will tell you, and I will say this to you today, and it may come across a little strong, but having done this for several years, let me just tell you the way I feel. Operations that we do here in Pasco with our Human Trafficking Task Force, going after illegal massage businesses and gentlemen clubs who are really masquerading, because what they really are houses of brothels and houses of prostitution, we've got to dismantle them. And that becomes a community effort as well as a law enforcement effort. But the one that we're going to be talking about today is these victims. Victims that have stolen freedoms, stolen birthdays, stolen opportunities, stolen childhoods, whether they're domestic minor sex trafficking victims or international sex trafficking victims. We have a responsibility, which is what Bridging Freedom is all about, is to restoring these childhoods, opportunities, birthdays, and freedoms to those that have it stolen. And that's why we're here today. And it's with great privilege and a great joy that I introduce to you, and though she needs no introduction, but bring her to this podium, the Attorney General for the state of Florida, Pam Bondi.
I don't know if all of you know, but Corporal was our 2017 Human Trafficking Summit Law Enforcement Officer of the Year, and he's been fighting this since 2005. Thank you. Before it was even on my radar, so thank you so much for everything you've done. Florida has truly come together. Look around this room. And I can't even get started without talking about you, Laura Hamilton. I was thinking driving here about the tortoise and the hare. You were certainly the tortoise. You weren't spending money. You were cautious. And thanks to great people like Becky and Chuck, you have, look at this. I mean, I can't believe you're not crying right now with everything that you've done. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And you have brought all these incredible, you listened to everything we said. You've brought all these incredible, kind, caring, wonderful people, all these great corporate sponsors here. Pastor, thank you so much for being here, who deeply care about this issue, and you are changing this world. Thank you, and thank you to all of our corporate sponsors. And what we've always said is it has to be an all-hands-on-deck approach. The head of the trucking association came to me, it happened to be a woman at the time, and said, let us be your eyes and ears on the road. So now we have Truckers Against Trafficking. And they're all, you didn't know that, they're all over the state. We have trained the trucking association on what to look for human trafficking. It's been truly amazing. I was speaking to the emergency room physicians of Florida in Tallahassee, and they said, we know we're seeing human trafficking in the ER. What do? We started training, we meaning law enforcement, the ER docs. So it's got to be everybody, our churches, everyone as a community working together to make this stop, this horrific crime. We have youcanstopht.com. It's up all over Tampa International Airport, other airports. Every time I'm going through the airport, which is pretty much every week, I'm snapping pictures of it because it tells people the signs to look for, just like the Uber driver. You guys heard about the Uber driver. Picked up a fare. It looked unusual. People are scared to report things. He picked up a fare. I'm staring at you because you've done so much. Thank you. I'm sorry. He picked up a fare, and it was a young girl and a man who looked like he was exhibiting control over her, and that's what this is all about. It had nothing to do with this. He did it on his own. And he called it in. He broke up an entire human trafficking ring. That's incredible. The flight attendant coming in, I think it was Alaska Air into San Francisco, saw something that looked suspicious. I mean, she was genius. You know, a little girl and a man, same thing, looked like they didn't belong together. The girl gets up, thank the Lord, Pastor, to go to the restroom, Reverend. Goes to the restroom, the flight attendant puts a sticky and a pen and says, do you need help? She answered, yes. Broke up an entire human trafficking ring in California because of a vigilant person. So that's why this is so important, everything that we're doing together. We hosted a summit this year that you're well aware of, and thank you again for everything you've done. But you know, we knew we couldn't keep this as a state. Of course, we're the third largest calls to the human trafficking hotline, and we're the third largest state in the country, and everybody wants to come to Florida. But also, working with, there are 56 AGs around the country, we all work so well together on this issue, and we don't reinvent the wheel. We share ideas, we share resources, everything, but we knew we couldn't keep it contained to our country. And so I went to Mexico City with a bipartisan group of attorneys general, and it was so life-changing for me. And the one thing they were doing better in Mexico, safe houses. And I've been saying that forever. They drove us out in the middle of nowhere. It was like Breaking Bad. I thought we were going to be cut up in the desert. And seriously, I called home and said that. And it was so frightening. And we get there, though, and these gates open. I'll never disclose where it was. And it was the most beautiful environment ever. Because we all know this is so multifaceted in the dynamic of human trafficking. They immediately addict the victims to heroin or some other drug. So you've got the drug addiction. You've got women and young boys, I'm just stereotyping, and young girls being raped 30 to 40 times a day. You have babies having babies as the product of rape. So you have all the psychological issues. You have the drug issues. You have the physical health issues from the traumatic physical experience. They're beaten. One of our cases here in Florida, Peter Kitt, that monster, he He had one of his victims carry around a bullet in her pocket and said that bullet was going to be in the heads of all her family members if she didn't continue on. So it's psychological.
Yes.
It's horrible what they're doing. But so we learned that quickly, that was something they were doing better than there. We've brought the Mexican AGs here twice. They were just in Tampa last month with me, training them on cyber crimes. So we have to work together as a state, as a country, and transnationally as a world to stop this. And Laura, look at this, what you're doing. It's truly incredible. And Chuck and Becky, you are champions for human trafficking survivors, and it's my honor to get to introduce Chuck now, and he's going to introduce all of our other incredible corporate sponsors who have helped so much to save lives every day right here in our community. And you donated the very first house that will be therapeutic for victims, which is really a first of its kind. And it's going to have 8 individual rooms and bathrooms, along with an educational room, which is so important because these young women and men believe that it's hopeless. Even if we get them out of this situation, even if we can convince them to be our witnesses, even if we can, what are they going to do next? Fall back into that life? So there's got to be the educational component along with it to help counsel them and train them. And so we're so thankful for everything that you're doing on that front, and all of our corporate sponsors, our churches, all of our organizations. I cannot thank you enough. Sheriff, thank you. And I'll tell you one thing we do in Florida better than any other state in the country: state, local, federal law enforcement, corporations, churches. We're a team in Florida. And thank you all so much. And Chuck, thank you for being the captain of this team along with Laura and Becky. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I think we're going to shift it up, right?
Just very quickly, I want to, right before Chuck comes up and talks a little bit about the corporate side of this, I think it's so important for us also to know and to recognize that on a local level, county level, in our respective responsibilities, how strong the effort is to stop this in our county. We want it to stop across the nation, but we realize from local law enforcement, from county law enforcement, we got to stop it here. And having a sheriff that is both passionate toward the victims and yet very strong against the traffickers and the buyers is a godsend for this county. It is my pleasure to welcome to this stage and to this podium our sheriff, Sheriff Chris Nalco.
Thank you all very much. I want to thank General Bondi. It's sad that you only have one more year left. Maybe we can change something in the CRC.
I have a whole year there.
I know. It's sad. Only 1 year. The one thing is, you talk about, you want law enforcement officers to do something. As the chief law enforcement officer in the state of Florida, she has done a tremendous job. And I can tell you, we are facing a spice epidemic with synthetic drugs. She was right here with us. We're fighting a heroin and opioid epidemic. She was right here with us.
Right.
We fight the human trafficking issue. It's being brought up. It's out there in forefront. She's the one leading the charge. So I want to say thank you very much. You have done so much for this state, and I don't think the people of Florida recognize or know how much you've done. So thank you very much for that. And I say any organization, we're not successful except for our members. And Alan has truly, I can tell you, one person can make a world of difference. He can change. He trains people all over the area. So you talk about changing the world, for one person can do that. Alan, you're that person. You can change the world. So thank you very much for doing that. I can tell you, Bridging for Freedom, our county, everybody working together, it is a team effort. There is pure evil in this world. There's no other way to say it. There's good and there's evil. And there's pure evil. And I was seeing there was a story the other day, and they were talking about human trafficking in Africa. And it is, they're in handcuffs, they're being sold at auction. And the sad reality is that is still going on in this world. What is also sad is there are people in America that probably read that article and said, oh yeah, that's going somewhere else. That's not happening here in my community. It's going on right here. There are young children that are being branded. You'll see a tattoo that says property of. They'll see they have to have something around their necklace. There'll be different identifiers that, they're basically their property. They're property of somebody. And so this is where Bridging for Freedom, this is where they're making such a difference. And the Sykes family, that first home that's going to be in place, it's going to rescue people.
Yes.
And the whole shift in paradigm in law enforcement has changed. Because it used to be with prostitution, you would find going back to, unfortunately, a typical situation, there's a young girl walking the streets, and you're like, okay, prostitute, we're going to pick them up, and they're going to go to jail. Well, that has to change, and it has changed because of the work of people in this room, where law enforcement is changing the fact that when you pick up a prostitute, you start asking questions about human trafficking.
Right.
Our members throughout this organization have all been trained to talk about that, even within the jail. We train within the jail, and we talk to the female inmates and try to get information as to what's going on, because it may not have been prostitution, but maybe they're dealing with bad checks that they're being told, you will do this. So there's other crimes associated, but this is where this home comes into place. Because putting them in the jail is not the answer. It's getting them help. It's getting them that education, which is so critical. It's removing that tattoo. Because if you think about that young woman, that young child, they have that tattoo. When they look in the mirror every time, that's a self-esteem issue. That changes who they are. So this is why we are changing. This is, honestly, you talk about how we have changed as people, this is definitely something different. And we live in a world that's all about me, unfortunately. It's all about me, me, me. It's all about how many likes I have, how many people follow me on Twitter. And that's not what this world should be about. It should be about caring more about others. And for those employees that have reached into their pockets to do something amazing, thank you.
Yes.
And when they look back and say, how did I make a difference? You made a difference because there's going to be a young girl that's going to be saved. There's going to be a young boy that's going to have a better opportunity in life than to be a slave. And so that is about we. That's about being all of us together. And so I would just ask anybody out there to say, what can we do going forward? Please, make it about me, we, no more about me. Try to save those people. And is it going on right here in our own community? Absolutely. Is it going on the streets that you drive to and from work, where you drop your kids off from school? Absolutely. There are cases going on right now in Pasco County that we're investigating. And I can tell you, the money that you donate to help Bridging for Freedom, like the Sykes family did, you're going to save somebody. And you're going to make we better. Thank you all very much.
I know General Bondi had you coming up right away, but I'm pushing you down
Yeah.
farther and
No,
farther
no,
down
no,
the
no,
scale.
we changed.
I
think
just want
Pastor
to, I
Jay-
want to take just a moment because I know the judge has to leave and has another prior commitment. And we wanted the judge to step up and talk about the need for a place like this when you talk about the judiciary and some of those limitations that are there and how this expands those options. So Judge, we're so glad that you're here. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for coming here in support of Bridging Freedom. I knew Laura way back when this was an idea in her head, and it was a great idea. And look at all the supporters. I've met some board members today. Thank you, General Bondi, for all you did. And if you can do for this kind of trafficking what you did for the pill mill crisis, we're really on our way to fixing it completely. Thank you. And to the Sykes family, and to Lazydays and Joe, and all the supporters here, the sheriff, the corporal, the sheriff. I mean, you're tremendous up here in Pasco. I'm in Pinellas, kind of a competitive county down there. But I was a juvenile judge for 9 years, and one of the most difficult kind of cases we had, of course, were the human trafficking.
Sure.
And they were difficult in particular ways, because as a juvenile judge, I only saw children up to the age of 18 or 17, before they were 18. And so when children would come in, particularly foster children, or children who had bad relationships with their parents, or single mom, and who were running away from home, often they would come in not as captured victims, certainly not in boxes stolen or crates shipped here or anything, but they would come in after they met someone on the street corner in front of a foster home or a group home, or someone outside a 7-Eleven or the mall, recruiting them as girls and promising them clothes and fancy nail manicures and French manicures and things like that. So they would willingly go off with these men, let's call them pimps, that's what they are, and they would be promised love and affection And a lot of them would create a bond immediately with these men and not realize what was happening until they were sold off to the pimp's friends and acquaintances and so on. And then they couldn't get away. Because like General Bondi said, they were caught up in drug trafficking then. In drug usage by themselves. They were hooked, they were addicted, and they couldn't get away from it. So what faced a juvenile judge is, what do we do with these kids? Now, we started off, when I was first a juvenile judge, calling them prostitutes. And that just horrified me and the other judges. They weren't prostitutes, they were victims. Right. They were 11, 12, 13 years old. So we finally cured that problem, so no one called them prostitutes in court anymore. But what do we do with them? You can't lock a victim up, right? So that's when Laura and I started talking, and Laura had these ideas for Bridging Freedom. And I hadn't seen these. I've seen online some things, but I hadn't seen them so blown up, and I'm so excited. Because if you can't lock kids up, as we know, you can't lock victims up if they're not committing crimes or acts of delinquency. What you can do is find a safe house, and that's what she did so well. It's kind of a supply and demand problem. So let's say that the demand for these girls to have safe houses, places away from their cities where the men control them and so on. The demand is great for these homes. The supply is scarce. And frankly, Laura and Bridging Freedom are one of the few things we have, starting in Pasco and hopefully used by Pinellas County too. So it's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to take care of these girls. They need therapy. They need to talk to other girls. Girls we learn love to talk about their problems. We'll be open like that. And they certainly need Bridging Freedom, not only House 1, but House 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. And I thank you all for coming, and a special thanks to General Bondi for what you've done. And thank you, Laura, and Bridging Freedom people.
Thank you so much, Judge, for those words, and what great words those were. Also now want to, right before Chuck comes up to talk, I want to bring, as General Bondi said and the sheriff said, both, recognizing the important role that our faith community has in the restoration of these victims as well. And so Pastor Ken Whitten is going to be coming up. We want him to come and share with us from a faith perspective. It's so glad to have you here today. Thank you so much.
Very, very much. Well, we are in this together. Let me tell you, Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, said this in Ecclesiastes 4 and verse 12. He said, one man can come against another one and prevail over him when he's alone, but two can withstand him. And then Solomon said something kind of interesting when you stop and think of it. He said, but a threefold cord cannot be easily broken. And what he's trying to say is, it's one-on-one, you don't have much of a chance. You get two-on-one, you get a little better of a chance. But if you can ever get a trifecta going together, where there's three coming in together, you've got a force to be reckoned with. And that's what he said. And I'm going to tell you what I think he meant by that. I think he meant that, yes, we need the legal system. Yes, we need the spiritual system. And by the way, the spiritual system in the Bible is always mentioned as police force, being ministers of God. That's what the book of Romans says. Yes. One of the reasons why our church loves our police force, Pasco, Hillsborough, and Tampa police, and we love them to support them. It's not just because we have bad drivers at Idaho. We do have bad drivers at Idaho, starting with their pastor. But that's not the reason why we love them. We love them because they're ministers just like we are. But you need the legal system, and you need the spiritual system, and you need the civil system. And they have to come together as a threefold cord. What Solomon is saying is this, that we can do this together, but we can't do it alone. And what we need is that threefold cord. What he's really talking about is, you can't do this without me. The Bible says the policemen wake up in vain unless God watches over the city. So God does what he does best, and we do what we do best. And we could not do this without you. Laura, like all of us in this room, we were here when it was an idea. And it's been a joy of Idaho Baptist Church of being a 7-year partnership with you. And we committed 7 years when that was just an idea. It wasn't ground moving, and now we see things happening. And we're just happy to partner with a winner and be here with you. I would be one of many. I am a big Pam Bondi fan. I was before she ran for office, and glad that she did run for office. And Sheriff Naco, I've seen this room a lot of times in my living room. I kind of wish I'd never walked in here. It was always so big on television. But that's because you're big, and we're grateful for that. Listen to this, and I close. Psalm 82, verse 3 and 4 says this: vindicate the weak and the fatherless.
Yes.
You know who does that? That's the legal system. And then it says, do justice to the afflicted and to the destitute. That's our police force. And then he says, rescue the weak and the needy. And that's us in the faith community. And then he says, deliver them out of the hand of the wicked. And of course, that's him. That's God himself. God says, I'll deliver. Let me tell you what I want you to do. I want you to vindicate. I want you to do justice. And I want you to rescue. And when you do those things and those threefold cords come together, I'll be right there in the middle, and I'll begin to deliver. I think we're onto something. Yeah. I think we're in this together, and we're stronger together, and it is we, not me, and it's us, and it's us. And when you are generous, like this couple right here, that makes all the difference in the world. Yeah. Would you let me do one thing? Would you let me, before Chuck speaks? I think I was supposed to just say a prayer at the very beginning, but would you let me just insert that now? Sure. And I promise we won't take an offering. And I promise it'll be real short, all right? Would you join me in prayer? Yeah. Father, obviously we're very, very grateful for Bridging Freedom, the board, the volunteers. We're so grateful for those who are making this happen today. And Father, thank you for those faces that we do not know, we cannot see, we don't know where they are, but you've had your eyes on them. And one of the greatest things you ever told us was to love our neighbors, ourselves. And I can only think, what if that was my son, or what if that was my granddaughter, or what if that was my child? Would I love them like I love myself? And God, we're trying, and we're doing that. And so we dedicate this building to you and these plans, and we thank you that a threefold cord is not easily broken. For it's in Jesus' name we pray. Everybody said together? Amen. Amen.
Did I get to come up after that? Well, folks, I'm standing there. There's only three words that really, in my mind, I mean, just thankful and grateful and humbled. I'm thankful in the sense, because even though I get to stand here and representative for Sykes Enterprises, I think it's important for everyone to know that I couldn't do the things that I do in supporting these great causes without the 58,000 people in our company that work so hard every day in 22 countries, and they really are the ones that make this happen. So I'm thankful for that. I'm also so thankful for just the leadership that has come before me. I don't really feel like I should be getting all of this type of accolade and everything, because candidly, guys, it's easier to write the check than it is to do the work. And I know that because in other cases, I'm literally the one on the front lines doing the work, and sometimes I'd rather just go back and write the check. You know, and Laura, I just remember meeting you that first time, and through my wife, Becky. I mean, she was the one that gave me, I always use this analogy, when you get that tap on the shoulder, and someone makes you aware of something that prior to that tap on the shoulder, candidly, you were clueless. There are so many things in this community that I'm involved in that before I got the tap on the shoulder, I was absolutely clueless about the problem. I really was. But the challenge becomes when you become knowing, when you now know about it, you know, what are you going to do about it, right? So we had dinner that night. Becky had arranged that. And I remember I was talking to Laura, and I was like, oh my goodness, I mean, this problem was just hitting me, and I just didn't know anything about it. And you listen to General Bondi and talking about it, and Corporal Allen, I mean, you've taught me so much about it, and Sheriff Naco, the passion behind you, and I'm still learning. And my eyes were open, my heart was open. But I remember I asked Laura, and I said this, and I said, Laura, so, well, do you have the land? She goes, no, I don't yet. And I said, okay. I said, well, is the state going to support us? Because, you know, I think the infrastructure, if we can get the foundation there, I will feel comfortable asking my friends in the community to want to come in and support. But without that, it feels like a really big uphill climb, right? And she goes, well, we're working on that, and we're praying about that, because Laura's very strong in her faith and everything. And so I drove home from dinner. I remember telling Becky, I said, you know what? I said, if she gets that land, and if the state really comes in and supports, I said, I want us to build that first house. I said, we'll end up doing it. Now, I didn't realize it'd just be a few months later. Hey, we got the land, you know, and then we're working with our legislation, and of course now I know, I didn't know at the time, but you know how much General Bondi's been an advocate up there for us, and just looking and trying to get our community to take action and do something, and sure enough, she got it. And so we're right there, and we're absolutely doing the first house. We're tickled to death to be doing that. It is truly a walk of faith. There is no doubt about it. You think of all the challenges that we've had. This is a bold, brave idea, you guys. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you when I was sitting at the dinner table, and Laura, don't take this the wrong way, but here's this quaint, quiet, petite, soft-spoken lady that is telling me one of the most bravest, boldest ideas that she wants to do. And I'm just sitting there and I'm thinking, okay, is this going to happen? And I just cannot believe what has unfolded. And, you know, it's we've heard this in church, and our ministers, pastors saying this, that when you were under the gun and things seem like we have a big setback, you didn't panic, you prayed about it. When it comes down to where, you know, oh my goodness, it's like this is happening, you don't tremble in fear, you trust it, you know, and this is the walk of faith that we're all here. And so I'm happy to join us. Becky and I are tickled to death to join you in this walk of faith. And I just want to acknowledge the board, because even way before I got involved, I mean, the board that you have surrounded yourself by, my colleagues in the industry, back here now, just in the community, we do a lot of other things in the community and the work. I mean, you guys have been there first. And I can't even begin to tell you, bringing that counsel, that guidance, the credibility that you bring to something when I get that idea and others get the idea, it is just enormous. So it's so, so important. General Bondi, I can't thank you enough for being here. You know, it's interesting because the first time I really felt like I got to meet you in a meaningful way and we sat and chatted, we were actually at a domestic violence program, and you came and spoke, and you are such a champion for the powerless. It is really, really incredible to see. And just Sheriff Nocco, I mean, I'll tell you all the time, here's my wife. I told you at the time I met you there, and I said, my wife, every time I'm on TV, it's like, silence. You know, we all have to look and listen to Sheriff Nocco. Standing right here behind this podium. I bet I'm not looking like he does when he said that. But fantastic. Thank you for all you do. And then this gentleman right here, what a champion. I can't say enough great things about this man right here. He is terrific. He is terrific. So thank you all for everything that you do. I'm so happy to say that Sykes Enterprises, it really doesn't matter if we're first or not. The big thing to me is that we're not alone.
Amen.
And I'm so happy to announce, and I really want to bring up and introduce Joe Myers here with Lazydays to come up. And as well, he's a foundational partner right here on the side, so it isn't really about being first. We're the foundational guys, right? Yeah. So get things going again. Joe.
All right, it was really ironic today that I walked in here, and this is also the first time I've been in this room. It says, we fight as one.
Right.
Today we start our fight as one. In 2005, a handful of Lazydays employees came together in Tampa, Florida, and created our own foundation to help at-risk children. We chose children because we were and are moms, dads, aunts, uncles, and we share a love for kids. Our foundation mission statement is to measurably change the lives of children by instilling hope, inspiring dreams, and empowering them with education. Our foundation has grown to over 500 contributing employees and now has chapters in Florida, Arizona, and Colorado. Our foundation is run by employees, not the company. It is funded through voluntary payroll deductions that our employees sign up for. 100% of these contributions go to the causes that we support. In 12 years, our employees have donated and given out $1.6 million to charities serving children. We have always focused on helping the children in our community who are the most in need. So today, we're very proud to partner with Bridging Freedom, Sykes Enterprises, the DeBartolo Corporation, Bank of Tampa, the FBI, local law enforcement, our Attorney General, Pam Bondi, and so many others who helped build the Tampa Bay area's first long-term treatment facility for girls rescued from human trafficking. Our gift today is for the young women of Hillsborough, Pinellas, and Pasco counties who have had no place to turn for the care that they need and deserve. Our gift will build the Lazydays house, which will be the first house that these young women will call home when they arrive at the Bridging Freedom Complex after being rescued. The Lazydays house and Bridging Freedom will share the same goal: to restore the childhoods that these young women have lost and empower them to reach their true potential. So on behalf of the Lazydays Employee Foundation, Laura, I would like to present this check for $350,000 to Bridging Freedom.
I'll let the chairman of the board say something.
First of all, let me just say this. Wow. Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
How many lives will be saved because of this?
Absolutely.
It amazes me how that when you see what the good people and good hearts are doing to counteract that which, as the sheriff called, is pure evil. That this right here is a statement of good. These are acts of kindness, more than words. These are acts of kindness. I had the privilege yesterday morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, of driving down to Lazydays. Again, let me emphasize, at 7 o'clock in the morning, after being out till midnight the night before. But anyway, that being aside, I had the privilege of coming down, and I sat beside Joe. And went through their entire spinning wheels and people winning money and all kinds of, I'm thinking, when do I get to spin that wheel? And, but they were doing all kinds of things. And toward the end of that, they took the time to recognize the project of Bridging Freedom. And Laura and I and Vince, one of the other board members that's here today, happened to be there and be able to represent the Bridging Freedom project. And as was said, and Laura said this, just recently I became chairman of the board, and I say that only from one perspective, and that is my job, and I accepted it for 1 year, because my whole job was this: let's get this done. Let's just get this done. And there are victims out there that desperately need this, so let's get it done. And but I have to tell you that it wasn't my vision. It was Laura's. This is Laura's vision. This was her heart. This is what God put on her to do. This was her mission. And it's just a privilege of mine and the other board members, I think I speak for them, that are here today as well, and those advisors and friends that come alongside there. It's our privilege to be able to come alongside this project and say with her, we're just going to get this done so that these victims have a place to go. And I see Bob back there too, which is probably her biggest support. And so it's just a great privilege. But the thing that Harold was on the video from Las Vegas, and they were accepting a humanitarian award, if I remember correctly. And I'll never forget the words that he spoke while on there, because on that video he was talking about they were getting ready to give this donation to Bridging Freedom, and he spoke that out of Las Vegas, and that was on the video. And I was watching him as his speech was about these young girls that were going to get help, and how emotional he became and tied into this, because we all recognize this is more than just a business. It's more than a dollar. This is about human lives. It's about people being destroyed. And I'll never forget what impressed me the most, Chuck, was whenever Harold was talking about this, and he made the comment, he said, you know, the employees of Lazydays, not the company, but the employees voluntarily take money out of their weekly or bi-weekly paychecks to give to causes like this, to help children. And the first thing that came to my mind is these employees are willing to live with a little less living so that victims can have a little more life.
Well, that's good.
So once again, I just want to say thank you to all the board members. I know they've been recognized and the business partners, but I want to draw your attention to right here. If this isn't a statement, because it's under the ground now, but in a few weeks, in a few more months, this will be out of the ground. There'll be a second home out of the ground, and in a few more weeks, little young girls
Mm-hmm.
who have had so much stolen will start having something given back. There's a video over here that is a drone that flies over the property, and you'll be able to see the video of the property and some of the progress that is there. But before we do that video, I just want to say one more thing. Thank you to Lazy Days. Thank you so much to the Employee Foundation. Joe, thank you so much, Joe. Chuck and Becky. I've watched this lady as she sat beside me in board meetings with tears flowing down her cheeks because she realizes we got to get this to them. We got to get this help to them. Thank you so much for what you've done. Sheriff Naco, my friend, and I mean a great friend of mine, and somebody that I admire greatly. Thank you. And General Bondi, another friend of mine, that as she presented the award the other day, and I thought to myself, this award is given to one, but it's earned by so many. And I wish that piece of hardware could have been given to a whole lot of people. So thank you so much for that recognition. And everyone else, let's take a moment and look at this, provided they can get it going. Somebody has to be from the Geek Squad, I'm telling you. So, all right.
Are we able to maybe move this way?
Yeah, maybe so.
It's worth the wait.
It's coming over Wi-Fi.
Technology.
That's a great picture right there, by the way. Thank you so much for being.
Is that the drive-in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish that our engineers, architects, developers, DeBarlow Development, Arc3 Architecture, Florida Design Consultants, they've been working years in planning, pro bono planning for us so that we could go out and get great partners to come on board to catch that vision that these girls really needed a sanctuary to be able to come and heal, find their hope and their purpose. The video might take a little bit longer to load, but if you have time to stay around and watch, it will be extremely powerful. So in early spring, we should be able to start accepting young girls. So thank you very much for joining this. Together, we are doing this. Thank you for catching the vision and walking in this faith path with us. All right,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Yeah, no, that's great you want to do that.
We're gonna try to do it if you want to hang around and watch it and stuff. But thank you so much for being here.
It's there.
Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go.
Yeah. Well, she's not, she just got it.
Can everybody see this?
Isn't it funny, just the visual, it's so nice to see how they get them going. Yeah.
So all the homes will be around the center. So we're hoping to build 7 homes, a lodge, and a chapel. We've got 2 homes. We're looking for funders for the other 5 and the lodge.
Do you want to show the other video or no?
Yeah, let's show the other one.
And just talking about community partners with Lacucci Electric is bringing all the electric out there and charging nothing. I mean, it's just amazing. Community stepping in.
I'll check it. I'll check it. See if you want to.
There's the Sykes place.
Yeah.
And the Lazy Days home will be built starting next month, right away.
Is it next door to that one or across the?
Right across.
Right across.
They should be pouring the slab today or tomorrow.
Awesome.
That's so awesome.
I did want to thank one more person. I see USF, College of Public Health, the Harrell Center, Dr. Martha Coulter, and Abraham Say it again? Salinas. are helping to do create a proposal to do the evaluation, so that the information of what is working with these children, what is not working with these children, will be passed on to the state, and together as a state we'll be able to continue to improve our processes. So thank you again for coming.
I'm over mine, so I need mine.
We gotta get all these
Yes, that's a great idea. Next to that would be great.